broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Irene Varley, Director of Education for the Dibble Institute. And joining me today is our webinar organizer, Kathy Gidray. You'll be hearing from her during the discussion or during the process of the broadcast.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hi, Kathy. Good you're there. We have a great panel of presenters who I will be introducing individually as they do their own presentation. But here's a great list of people that you will be hearing from this afternoon. Before we begin, I'd like to point out a few housekeeping tips. If you experience any audio difficulties during this broadcast, please note the phone number that's listed here on the slide. And also, I believe it's in your control panel to your right. You can both listen on the phone while viewing the broadcast on your computer if necessary. Our webinar software strongly recommends that you use earphones while connected to the broadcast. If you have any technical questions, you may send inquiries through the question box located in the control panel. We also expect that you'll have questions or comments of our panelists, and we are going to ask that you write down any questions that come to mind as they are speaking. And then when they are all completed, all the panelists have spoken, we're going to be asking you to enter your questions in that same question box on your control panel. We will have a 10 to 15 minute question and answer session at the end of the presentations. And if your question is not addressed during that time, please know that we will definitely give you an answer through email. So we will not forget you. Our time here is 60 minutes, including the question and answers. And it's being recorded and will be available on our website in 3 business days. I think that takes us to Monday. Well, the Dibble Institute is a national nonprofit organization dedicated to equipping young people with the skills and knowledge they need to develop healthy romantic relationships now and for their future. Charlie Dibble, his picture here with his wife Helen, is our founder and was an aeronautical engineer who in his retirement years was dedicated to working with young people. From them, he heard many painful stories following their parents' relationship issues. It was a time the divorce rate was reaching its peak, and Charlie was concerned with the decreasing models of healthy relationships teens had to emulate. Being a natural problem solver, Charlie searched for solutions and found there were few programs addressing the issues for youth. And so Charlie, with the support of fellow businessmen and educators, founded the Dibble Fund, now known as the Dibble Institute. There is more information about Charlie's story on our website. Just go to www.dibbleinstitute.org and in the toolbar, About Us, and you'll find Charlie's story there. It's very interesting, I think. And we feel Charlie would be very proud of the work being done by our panelists today. They are going to share their ideas of how they have incorporated the PREP, and that is Personal Responsibility and Education programs, adult preparation topics into their youth programs. It fits in very well with what the Dibble Institute believes. We believe that all kids deserve good, healthy relationship skills, whether they are thinking of they're going to cohabitate in their late adolescent years, that they can do it in a smart way, because we know so many of them do that, or that they have a sexual orientation that is different from the actual major population. So we think all kids need to be informed about having the chance to form a healthy relationship. Well, getting back, let's begin because we have a lot to cover today, and I want you to feel that you have had information that can enhance your programming. We begin at the top of the prep grant structure in the state of Georgia. Felicia Tuggle is the prep director at the Georgia Department of Human Services. And with her today is one of her grant partners, Dr. Ted Futris, associate professor and extension specialist in the College of Family and Consumer Sciences at the University of Georgia. Hi, Felicia and Ted.
Hi. So, as she mentioned, my name is Felicia Tuggle, and I am the State Director for Georgia's Personal Responsibility Education Program. And I'm just going to kind of begin with giving a high-level overview of how we're structured here in Georgia. But for those people who are joining the webinar who are not PrEP grantees, PrEP is one of the newer federally funded initiatives around teen pregnancy. And the purpose of it's funded through the Affordable Health Care Act, and the overarching purpose of state PrEP is to educate youth on abstinence and contraception to prevent pregnancy and STDs. And unique to the previous legislation around teen pregnancy prevention, PrEP is one of those first legislations that actually incorporates the adult preparation subjects, which we'll focus a lot of our time on today. And to meet our legislatively mandated adult preparation subjects, in Georgia we are implementing 3 of those, and those are healthy relationships, healthy life skills, and adolescent development. And we are actually using one of Dibble's curriculum, Relationship Smarts, to address those legislatively mandated adult preparation subjects. And we're mapping those onto making proud choices, making a difference, be proud, be responsible, be protected. Those are the 3 evidence-based sex education curriculum that we are using. And so at the state level, we really provide the funding, monitoring, and evaluation. We provide funding to public and nonprofit agencies. And so our grant sits within the Division of Family and Children Services. And we also provide funding to the Georgia Department of Public Health, as well as about 20 community-based organizations who are actually implementing PrEP in local communities. As a part of that work, we also partner with the Georgia Campaign for Adolescent Power and Potential. They provide training and technical assistance on the sex education curriculum. And we also partner with the University of Georgia Cooperative Extension, which Ted is a part of. They provide training and technical assistance specifically on our adult preparation curriculum. And again, we're using the Relationship Smarts curriculum to address 3 of those adult preparation subjects. And then finally, one of our other partners is Georgia State University, and they provide our statewide evaluation. And so overall, like I said, we provide the funding, the monitoring and evaluation. That goes down to the public and the nonprofit agencies that we fund. They do the implementation. And our ultimate goal or mission is to have a unified vision where we provide high-risk youth in 10 Georgia counties access to free evidence-based pregnancy prevention and adult preparation subjects. And so we are actually operating in 10 counties across the state of Georgia. We're in 5 counties within the metropolitan area, and then 5 counties outside of the metro area. When we receive funding, those 10 counties were selected based on teen pregnancy rates and STI rates among youth between the ages of 15 and 19. And so collectively, those 10 counties make up just over 40% of the teen birth rates and STI infection rates among adolescents. Again, as I mentioned, we provide funding to about 20 community-based agencies. And so when we look at the public health agencies that we fund, or the health districts that we fund, as well as those 10 community-based agencies, we have about 61 program coordinators and facilitators that we've trained, and about 42 unique program sites. And our program sites where programming occurs, those are pretty varied. They include schools, group homes, local parks and recreation, high schools, and we're actually also implementing in some 2- and 4-year colleges. And so I'm going to turn it over to Ted, and he'll kind of talk a little bit about our sustainability and how we've kind of transitioned over the first year and a half from really doing a lot of capacity building to kind of focuses around sustainability with our relationship education curriculum.
Thank you, Felicia, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to briefly kind of outline for you kind of how our project has kind of been structured in terms of helping some of the local agencies build sustainability and kind of the things that we do in regards to not just teaching the sex ed, but also the relationship ed programming. So it's a very integrated process. And as a state team, we kind of work together, all the partners, in outlining kind of best way to provide adequate training. One of the things that we've learned is you can never have enough training, and facilitators really do appreciate and do benefit from seeing how the content is taught and delivered, and have opportunities to process that collectively and with others who've taught it. We also work one-on-one with each of the sites, providing them technical assistance. We conduct site visits to kind of check in and see how classes are going, provide them with some guidance, some tips, recommendations, and process, how those individual classes are going, the activities, the engagement with the youth. Also, we have independent evaluation that's going on, where we're seeing how the youth are reacting, the feedback from the facilitators, and we take the feedback from the technical assistants and from the evaluation and use it to stimulate some dialogue across sites with the state partner teams and the individual sites, where we come together during annual wrap-up meetings, where we all meet together to kind of process how the year has gone. And all of that dialogue, evaluation, technical assistance, all feeds back into that loop of training, where we do booster trainings on an annual basis, just to kind of reinforce the content, but also process some lessons learned, some new ideas, innovative strategies for implementing and teaching certain skills, creative ways to engage youth. And so we have this ongoing cycle during the last 2 years of the project, and continuing on into year 4 of the project. Next slide. And so, as a result of all of this process, we like to think in terms of a logic model, think about program inputs and outputs and outcomes. And so our inputs really, this entire process has generated some resources that have helped facilitators better implement the relationship education programming. We use Relationship Smarts Plus, and the trainings we are finding are used to promote the self-efficacy and the program quality. So we really do, we not only walk through the core lessons that we want our facilitators to teach, but we also do teach outs, where they have opportunities after a one-day training. The second day, they come back, and after they've had a chance to review some of the content, and each of them have lessons that they're assigned, activities that they're assigned, where they have an opportunity to practice teaching themselves and get immediate feedback. We also, what we learned was to make it really easier for facilitators to implement with consistency, and to reduce the burden that they experience. We actually developed toolkits, taking the materials from the Relationship Smarts Plus curriculum. Each of the sites gets has a copy of the curriculum that they've purchased. And what we've done is take those handouts, the value cards, the red flag cards, all the reusable materials, and laminated them and cut them up and put it into a little toolkit so they can quickly kind of take it, grab, and go. Because that is something, these sites have a lot of other things going on, a lot of other activities. So we want to minimize the burden and to ensure consistency in delivery across sites. One of the other things we've also developed, and that Dibble has available to share now, is a connections document where because we're teaching sex education, which is very clearly defined, there's clear instructions on teaching that with specific fidelity and guidance, whereas the Relationship Smarts, we want them to follow the curriculum, but there's some flexibility. Well, we also, our goal in Georgia Prep is we want the youth to feel like this is one seamless program. We don't want them feeling like they went from one program on sex to a new program on relationships. So we want them to see this as one program. So what we've done is develop a connections document so that sites who are teaching sex ed first and then relationship ed can, as they're teaching relationship ed, we've highlighted, hey, as you make this point in this lesson on relationships, this connects back to these points back in the sex ed curriculum to reinforce the content. So you remember now we're going to talk about values. Remember how a couple weeks ago we talked about X and O, and they can connect the points. And vice versa, if they teach relationship ed first, we have a document that reinforces how the sex ed content they're covering that day relates back to relationship concepts and skills that they covered maybe a couple weeks ago. Next slide. And so, thank you for transitioning. And so what we found is that through this process, this really integrated process, collaborative process between the facilitators, the partners, the evaluators, we've generated some really positive impacts. Our outputs, for example, just in the past couple of years, we've completed 3 Relationship Smarts curriculum trainings with 78 educators. We've also followed this up with 2 booster trainings to date with 46 educators. And what we see in terms of the evaluations from these trainings and trainings, some really positive feedback from the facilitators. 99% of them state that the training helped increase their knowledge of healthy relationship skills. Because these are unique skills. Even though facilitators have had experiences of their own in relationships, good and bad, it's sometimes hard, you know, as simple as some of the concepts are in the curriculum, to really pinpoint what do we teach and how. And so we're really seeing an increase in their comfort and capacity, their efficacy in teaching. The teachbacks enhance their ability to handle the difficult questions and make adaptations without compromising the fidelity. And we're also seeing through site visits and through self-report forms that they fill out a high rate of fidelity in their implementation of the relationship programming. Next.
So, you know, across the 3 years, I think one of the things that we've really been impressed to see is really just how well youth have received Georgia Prep, both components, the sex ed as well as the relationship, healthy relationship component. And oftentimes when we're out doing site visits or when facilitators and contractors are kind of reporting back, you know, what youth in their communities are saying, we get a lot of positive feedback, especially because so many youth report that they have not received a lot of this information. And so over the past 3 years, we have had 76 different implementation cycles. And so when we reference the implementation cycle, those are 76 groups of youth who have gone through both the sex ed as well as the adult preparation materials, which would also include that relationship education. We've engaged 2,185 youth, and we're happy that we've graduated about 50% of those youth. They've completed programming. And to graduate from prep program based on our federal requirements, those youth have to attend 75% or more of programming. So we're really excited to be seeing early, you know, indication that programs are being institutionalized into the community as well. Some of the other key outcomes that we're seeing is, you know, we see well over 70% of the youth report at exit that they care about doing well in school, setting personal goals, forming healthy, positive relationships, managing conflict in relationships, resisting peer pressure. And again, I highlight the fact that these are really important outcomes because at entry, we do entry and exit surveys on all of our youth. And at entry, about 50% of the youth report that they have not had information on relationship education. But we also know from those entry surveys that about 50% of those youth are sexually active youth at entry. So before they've even begun any prep programming, they're already, 50% are already sexually active, or they report the intention to have sex within the next year. So the opportunity to really help them contextualize or put sex in the context of a healthy relationship is something really beneficial to the youth as well as to our community. And again, I think most impressively, being someone who manages a large federal program at a statewide level, to just really see how our evaluation findings suggest that our programs, that we're meeting those federal performance measures, but more importantly, that we're really making a positive impact in the youth that we're serving. And so that is pretty much in a nutshell kind of what we're doing at a high level here in Georgia. And I will transition over to Lisa.
Well, thank you. And Felicia and Ted, many kudos to you. I think I have a greater appreciation of all that goes in that the public does not see to help make these programs so successful, to get to these outcomes. So many, many thanks to you. And now I'd like to introduce you to Lisa Smith, who is a clinical nurse at the University of Utah Adolescent Services and works with youth in a mom-teen health clinic. Hi, Lisa. What can you tell us about how relationship education fits into a teen health setting?
Hi, thanks for having me. So as she said, I work at the Teen Mom Teen Health Clinic here in Salt Lake City through the University of Utah. A little history about myself. I've always had a passion for teens and young families and teaching, creating and collecting teaching materials. I really enjoy being able to combine the clinical work as well as the education for these young families. And a little information about our clinic. We focus on adolescent health and well-being as a whole, as the center. And the pieces of our clinic are prenatal care. We provide prenatal care for the pregnant teens. We also do primary care for the mom and the baby, as well as general adolescent health. We also insert a portion of psychosocial well-being for all of our patients. And finally, we also emphasize education for the general population. Specifically, we target educating providers and staff. We also want to educate our patients and their families and the community, which is where our PrEP classes fit in here, is in this education piece for all three of those components. And the goals, of course, with the PrEP is to educate pregnant parenting teens on abstinence, contraception, STDs, healthy relationships, healthy life skills, education, career success. And we implement that here in the clinic. We offer classes for the teen moms who have completed a group prenatal care, and we transition them postpartum into the PrEP class, and we have them continue meeting on a regular basis. And instead of doing prenatal care, we educate on the PrEP topics, the sex ed, as well as the healthy relationship component. I also use the concepts that we pull out of the Love Notes curriculum, which is the Dibble Institute curriculum that we choose to use for our healthy relationship component. Many of those lessons fit very well in just educating teens at their regular visits and introducing healthy relationship skills into those regular visits. We also teach classes out in the community through community collaborations through the juvenile justice system, through residential treatment for mental health in teens, the local Boys and Girls Club, as well as alternative high schools in the area that cater towards teen parents. Next slide. And our clinic is located in South Salt Lake at the South Main Public Health Center. Okay, next slide.
I'm sorry.
That's okay. So how we're using these materials, we use the Love Notes curriculum, like I said, which is written for teen parents, and it works so well with our population. We get into the relationships today, knowing yourself, understanding how personality fits into relationships, and going into the baggage that we bring in from our past relationships and how that affects our current and future relationships. We talk about my future, my expectations, and how do I want people to see me, who supports me, what helps me grow, and how does that affect my relationships and how I interact. Looking at expectations and understanding that they have expectations. They need to be aware of those expectations, communicate them, learn about them with their partner. We talk about attraction and starting relationships, those love chemicals at the beginning of a relationship. How do they deal with them? How do they make proper decisions in light of those chemicals that are flooding their brains, in addition to the adolescent development challenges? Helping them pace decision-making during the process of relationships. We also review the principles of smart love and smart relationships, and having them give examples on what does it look like to have a healthy relationship. Doing activities that relate to what questions do I ask to determine the health of my relationship. Is it healthy or unhealthy? Looking at dangerous love or warning signs during the relationship, and how should they approach those warning signs. Looking at, decide, don't slide, making decisions about relationships, and communication, and how huge that is in any relationship, whether a romantic and intimate relationship or a friendship, a relationship with a parent, co-parenting, any kind of relationship in their life, how all of these principles apply to that. And how Felicia and Ted talked about with going back and integrating both the Dibble Institute's curriculum and the sex ed portion of the prep grant. This curriculum has led so well into being able to introduce those adult preparation topics required by the grant. And in addition to that sex ed component, the curriculums meld very, very well together, and educating the participants on how to have a healthy relationship and understand the physical intimacy of it, and how to protect themselves. Next slide. So I have a few pictures that we'll see here in a moment of our participants, and one of the wonderful things about the Love Notes curriculum is the variety of activities and learning style that is incorporated into it. There's partially lecture or discussion and answering questions, brainstorming, small group work, and role playing, and playing with Play-Doh, and creating models of what relationships look like. So it gets everybody involved, no matter what their no matter what they're doing, and their am I connected? Sorry.
Yes, you're there.
Yes.
Okay, good. So keeping our participants engaged with so many different ways of interacting in the class is wonderful, and it keeps them a part of the class and eager to learn more and more. I'd like to read a story from one of my participants that just to give you a feel for what the participants are seeing and feeling and hearing during these classes. Let me begin. I would first like to say thank you for allowing me to join your class. I learned a lot during class. It helped me see things I would not have otherwise. I was able to ask some questions that would have been awkward to ask my parents. It has helped me realize that even if you're in a relationship for a long period of time, the use of condoms does not mean you or your loved one is cheating. It's just to protect both of you from unwanted pregnancy and STIs. I love that you can go to class and be yourself, talk about anything. This class has helped me learn the warning signs of physical, mental, and verbal abuse that I had no idea about and that had happened to me. Now I know it was wrong and will not let it happen to me again. When the class ended, it didn't let my learning experience end there. I kept my book and I go over it with my kids. I had no clue of this stuff when I was younger, so I'm very thankful from the bottom of my heart to have been a part of your class and given the tools to be able to learn from this experience and pass it on to my kids. Once again, thank you. I think that gives a very good picture of what our participants get out of this experience and being a part of a prep course. And I just encourage you guys to really look into how you can present the topics to your community and educate the young people in the community on relationships and how they can be a part in an active role. And my last slide here. There's you'll see the cartoon strip from the newspaper here, and just remembering that when you're working with teens, you're going to get to that point where it's really complicated and it's hard for the teens to even understand where they're at in a relationship. So using the curriculums and the prep grant opportunity to help them define and use their skills and just be able to laugh about it as an educator. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lisa. Oh, thank you, Lisa. You know, that story was so great because it shows us there are different ways to measure successful outcomes. And one of them is through the stories that our participants have to share. And that was a great, great story. Thanks so much. Our third panelist team is Robin McLyman and Delano Grant. Robin is the Senior Program Manager for the Teen Pregnancy Prevention Program, and Delano is, and may I say, passionate prep educator. Both work through the OIC of South Florida in the Fort Lauderdale area. Welcome, Robin and Delano.
Thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate this opportunity. I'd like to start out just with a little information about our organization, as you can see up on the screen. OIC of South Florida is one of 44 affiliates here in the country that operates an employability skills training program. So our roots are in employability skill training. We recently have a youth and family services division that started up about in 2005. And through that division, we've been able to implement our teen pregnancy prevention program. We are a TPP and PrEP grantee, and we've been able to serve approximately 5,000 youth since 2011. We're very excited about the PrEP grant because it allowed us the opportunity to be able to not only provide prevention education, but of course what we knew our youth needed, and that was relationship education as well. And it just was a good vehicle for a holistic approach to providing our youth with education that we knew would help them in reaching their career and their career goals, which is right in alignment with our agency. As you can see, our mission is to be a leader in providing quality self-help skills and employment opportunities. And we think that when you have the information to make good choices regarding prevention and getting into a healthy relationship, you're more likely to have a successful career. And that's what we tell our youth, that this information is going to help them, again, with reaching those career goals and aspirations. We typically serve students in high schools, middle schools, juvenile detention facilities. We serve youth between the ages of 11 and 19, and we also serve pregnant and parenting youth under the age of 21. That's a little bit about our agency and what we do. And now I'd like to turn it over to our educator, Delano Grant.
Good afternoon to all in webinar land. My name is Delano Grant. I'm one of the educators here for the PrEP grant, and I've been using Healthy Relationships curriculum for the last, I want to say the last 7 years. Since 2007, I've been using this wonderful curriculum by Marlene Pearson. As you notice the first slide, a lot of the slides that you will notice today are slides that I use to engage all of our young people, no matter where I go, to get them involved in what's going to take place. These are not slides that come with the curriculum, but this is how I get them involved to relate things to them, so when they get to the actual curriculum, it means a lot more. Now, every time our youth get involved in relationships, it's a nerve-wracking issue, and because there's so much going on, I always ask them, who's in a relationship? I begin to start the class by asking that question, and many people raise their hands. Many people are looking around at each other because they're trying to talk to one another and what's going on in what's happening in the school and what's happening in that class. So I also asked, what does this image say to you? A lot of times our kids have so many questions and they feel all alone in talking about relationships, but that's for us to bring it out of them so they can understand what true relationships are all about. Who am I and where am I going? Again, Marlene always talks about putting yourself first, making sure you understand that without you, there is no relationship, and I emphasize that in my classes, that you are the most important person in the relationship. You don't put your girlfriend ahead of you or your boyfriend ahead of you, whoever you want to be with. You make sure you take care of you first. Next slide. The next slide you see, we talk about respect, honesty. As you notice, the picture of the lion and the kitten, the cat, and again, I asked them, what does this say to you? What does it symbolize? And so many of our kids are looking forward to trying to figure it all out as to what they're all about. So we talk about self-concept, self-esteem, self-image, and we ask, what is respect? How do you verbalize respect? How do you command respect? How do you demand respect? Do you have to give respect? Yes, you do. So we stress all these things. We talk about the importance of love versus sex. Again, Marlene Pearson, in both Love Notes and Healthy Relationships Smarts Plus, she talks about that and the fact that some of our kids get that confused based on what they see on MTV, BET, all types of music channels, what they hear on the radio, what they hear in their neighborhood, what happens at school. When you go to different schools, the culture is quite different. So relationships, respect, honesty mean so much, so many things, and quite different a lot of times from when you go to school. As you see the last bullet, am I attracted or am I infatuated? Our kids can't really tell the difference between if they're really in love or just infatuated. What attracts you to this other person? And so she breaks down quite well how to differentiate between love and infatuation and help our kids to understand what they're feeling really isn't love, and they're just caught up in certain feelings that they don't need to be exhibiting right now, but as they get older, they'll begin to better understand, and that's what I really love about this curriculum. Next slide. So the next slide that's coming up, I give more details about the, as it gets ready to come up, you'll see that this slide talks about trust, and whenever it comes up, you'll see a slide of Usher and Chili. Now you've got to get these kids to understand what's happening in their world and get into their world. That's the beauty of relationships, because they see relationships happening all over the place. And I chose Usher because when he came out with the album Confessions, a lot of the kids could identify, and when I say identify, they knew who Usher was. They knew that he was dating Chili, and when you listen to the album, you could identify talking about relationships. This was a relationship, and now that you see that they're no longer together, what could take place? Was there trust? Obviously not. And again, talking about yourself, you've got to be able to trust yourself before you trust somebody else. And the quote with the young lady laying in the grass, a relationship with no trust is like a cell phone with no service. All you can do is play games. I mean, as soon as they see this, they're on Twitter, they're on Facebook, and Mr. Grant, can I? I said, do whatever you like. This is how you get them to get excited about relationships before you get into the book. So when you start it, they're already amped up and ready to go. And so we talk about trust and all these things that matter are important to you, and that's what Marlene always stresses, the fact that you've got to begin with yourself before you get into a relationship and bring all that you have, the baggage, the good baggage, the bad baggage, all these things. We've got to differentiate what we need to bring into a relationship and what we need to let go. Next slide, please. So we talk about friendship. Friendship is definitely important. Am I a friend? Do I know what it is to be a friend? And you have to be able to come up with many different pictures. Could be in the classroom. Ask the kids, what is friendship? Because Ms. Pearson talks about in chapter 6 and 7 when she talks about the love, and without love, without friendship, without trust and commitment, without chemistry, there is no love. So we've got to understand how important is friendship to each other, especially to myself. I've got to know, can I be a friend before I put myself into a relationship with this other person? Our relationship must be fun. Our relationship must be supportive. Our relationship must be about spending quality time together. This is what our kids are not model. They don't see this type of a model from older adults at times because they always see arguing or there's always fighting or drama in relationships, and they think that's what relationships are all about, drama. Drama will happen ever so often when we allow it to happen, but we've got to tell them there's more to relationships than the fighting and the bickering and the back and forth. You can have a healthy relationship in high school, and which will permeate through college and wherever else they continue to move on to. The next slide, you see communication. Marlene has a couple sections, a couple chapters well on communication. As you see the next slide coming up, why is communication so important? Because there's so much that our kids do today that has to deal with communication. In a minute, when the slide comes up, you'll see a pie graph, and with this pie graph, you'll notice that 55% is nonverbal, 38% is tone and voice. Your body language says it all. We communicate, our kids communicate everything so much, not even by words. It's just by their attitudes and even the tone in which they say things. So it's not what is said, it's how it's said. And another saying that we always use is not how much you say it, but it's how well you say it. Knowing how to talk, and if we're the adults that we deal with on a daily basis, we have this issue at times where we don't know how to communicate. And if we can't communicate to our kids, how do we expect them to communicate back to us the effective way that we want them to be great adults? Verbal and visual. So communication is not just verbal, but a lot of it is visual. The kids who like to put their hands on their hips and roll their necks and roll their eyes, and the things they do to show when they're in a different mode or have an attitude. How do we help them develop proper communication skills? Avoid kitchen sinking, cross-complaining. Marlene's model on speaker-listener techniques. There's a whole host of things that I enjoy about this curriculum because you really get the kids to understand that without communication, they're not going anywhere. They've got to learn how to communicate and assert themselves. Not be aggressive or passive, but learn how to really assert what they want out of life. Next slide, and the final slide as we move on here is that we continue on with communication, and this is where we end with communication here, is that a lot of our teens are texting and on the phone. This is how they meet. Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we've got to get them out of this mode where they learn to how do you build a relationship face-to-face, hanging out together, doing things together. And we have to get them past the texting and the sexting and the phone conversations because there's a lot more. And one thing I really notice about our young people is that if you ask them this question, how many of you teenagers, how many of you young people notice that when you are together, there's not much that you say to each other, but as soon as you are apart, you have lots to say. You have lots to text. You have lots to talk about, and there's so much more to relationships than texting or on the phone. Face-to-face is in great demand, and we've got to bring back what we grew up doing was learning to know the person, not by texting. When I grew up, I had a beeper. You had to call the person back to talk to them. So, when they laugh at me when they don't know what a beeper is. But those on, who are in webinar land here know what a beeper is all about. And remember when we had the Motorola Bravo Express and the things that we used to do with that. So, we try to let them know that we back in the old school, as they would say to us, even though we're not that old, we know exactly what they're going through and how do we help them navigate through relationships to lead to a healthy lifestyle as they get older. I want to thank you for this time. I hope that all who are here will get a chance to get this wonderful curriculum. And again, you've got to bring this curriculum to life. It's not a dead curriculum. It's an exciting curriculum. But, I'm very hyped and I'm very excited. So I can bring this curriculum to life, and I hope that you can do the same. I enjoy every aspect of it, and I hope that you all have a great day. And I look forward to meeting all of you one day. Thank you for having myself and Ms. Robin McClimate here from OIC of South Florida. Have yourself a great day.
Oh, thank you so much, Delano and Robin. And what great insights. How lucky these youth are to have you as their mentor. Now for our fourth panelist, we have Dixie Zitlow, who is the Dibble Institute's go-to specialist on prep programming. And Dixie, how can the Dibble Institute help our audience? Dixie, are you there?
Yes.
I think we had a little technical difficulty here. Kathy, are you able to reach Dixie
Yeah,
at all?
I am
there
unmuted.
you go.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Okay.
Is that mute?
Great. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. I feel very honored to have heard how you are implementing these programs, and also thank you so much for the work that you do out there in the community in these young people's lives. Today, we were able to hear from 6 different PrEP grantee grant awardees and how they're utilizing and implementing relationship education using Love Notes and the Relationship Smarts Plus programs. These programs are evidence-based, they're comprehensive programs for at-risk youth, and you heard that they were being used to meet the adult preparation topics. But you can also imagine that they'd be used in a variety of other ways, especially when you look at the venues that these people are presenting them in. They meet adult preparation topics like adult development, healthy life skills, healthy relationships, and then the parent-child communications. Now, some of the features and benefits, I just want to point those out again, and you kind of heard this as you heard your different speakers, is that they're organized. This makes them adaptable and user-friendly, easy to teach, and relevant to the needs of the teens that that everyone serves out there. The other thing about them being organized, as you saw, and everyone said, you know, how they mesh with programs that they're using for the other part of their PrEP grant. They're skills-based, again, engaging, using media and hands-on activities. And they're research-based and evidence-based. For those of you not sure what this means, that means that Relationship Smarts Plus and Love Notes are listed on the CDC's National Registry for Evidence-Based Programs and Practices. Why is that useful information to you? Because it helps you know that this is going to meet your grant requirements. It's grounded in current research, and it gives you confidence that you're using something that's been evaluated and quality. We know that relationships is what is on the minds. Next slide, please, Kathy. What is on the minds of teens and young adults. And shh, this is a secret. I'm just letting this, only you who are on here know this. Okay, everybody ready for the secret? This program is newly adapted Money Habitudes 2 for at-risk young adults, and we are very excited about this. This will be useful to you also in the adult PrEP topics, and it is being released. It should be available now, but you will hear more about this, and probably an upcoming webinar will be available too. So, next slide, please. Helping you meet these goals allows us to also meet our mission. We are here for you. We can offer you technical assistance and a variety of other resources that'll help make your programs thrive and to meet the goals that you have through your grants and to just meet the teens' needs. Next slide. As the grant year comes to an end, for those of you that are on the grant, and you're planning for this upcoming grant year, I have a question that I want you to ask yourselves today. How will you use Dibble Programs to fulfill your needs? And how can we help you do that? As the PrEP specialist here at Dibble, I am confident in the choices that you're going to make, and I will be happy to answer any questions that you have and to help you fulfill those goals that you have. And so I'm going to be turning it back over to Irene now.
Oh, thanks, Dixie, for those supportive words. Now it's your turn. Any questions that you have of our panelists, is your time now to enter it into the question box. Kathy, do we have a question ready at all?
Yes, and I'm not sure who's going to want to answer this, but the first question that I have here is how do states get the PrEP grants and how do they distribute it to the sub-grantees?
So
Perhaps
this is
Alicia?
Yeah, this is Felicia. I will say, so the state prep funds are mandatory funds. So for those of you all who are familiar with federal funds, you know that they have either mandatory funding or discretionary funding. And so the prep funds are considered mandatory funds. And so whatever the designated state agency is, for us, it is our Department of Human Services, Division of Family and Children Services. The Child Welfare Agency. In other states, they may be their state board of education. In other states, they are their state health departments. But from the state level, the state kind of chooses how they choose to award those or make sub-awards for those funds. In Georgia, what we do is we partner with our Department of Public Health, so, you know, as a public agency, but then we also set aside some of those funds and we put out requests for proposals so that other community-based organizations can apply for funding. And for the most part, I think that's a very pretty consistent model across the nation for the states that are implementing, that receive PrEP funds. There may be a few smaller states where they may have concentration, so all of it is administered at the state level. But by and large, in my experience with my colleagues in other state PrEP programs, that's pretty much how they get the money down to local communities through funding solicitations.
Thanks, Felicia. Any more, Kathy?
Yes. Stacy wants to know when we say that the programs, specifically we've been talking about relationship smarts and love notes. It looks like those are the two that you all have been able to put into the PrEP grant. Do all of these curriculums have contraceptive and STD education? I'm not sure who wants to answer that. Dixie, maybe?
Or Lisa?
I can address it, but Lisa,
Okay.
why don't you start since you're the one who's using it in the field?
Can you repeat the question so I make sure I get the details correct?
Kathy, can you repeat that?
Lisa, can we?
Does it have, my understanding is, does it have contraceptive and STD prevention?
Education, I'm sorry.
So in the Love Notes curriculum, there is a section on like the smart sex components, and which we use one of the curriculums that were required to address the unplanned pregnancy prevention, STD prevention, condom use. We use that curriculum with the Love Notes. So we don't generally use that particular chapter verbatim from the Love Notes curriculum, but we, just like I was talking about, everything gets combined back, like going through one lesson, just like Ted had mentioned earlier. You know, we're talking about dangerous love and going through those relationship points and pointing back to reasons why you would want to ensure safe sex or abstinence or understanding of condom use. Does that help answer the question?
I think so. And possibly if they need to know more, have additional questions, they can enter them into the question box and it will be on our follow-up report and we'll be able to directly answer that for them. Okay. Anything else, Kathy? Thank you so much, Lisa.
Yes. Lori would like to know, well, she's a high school and middle school teacher, but her students are not necessarily at-risk youth. And she would like to use relationship education in her classes, but she knows that it's hard to get schools to spend money on these topics if it's not Common Core. Can you give any suggestions on how to get the schools interested?
Hello, this is Robin. I just wanted to respond to that question. I know that, well, what I mentioned previously is that we primarily work in the schools, and what we found to be helpful as we meet with school administrators is to be able to identify with them as to how Love Notes and Relationship Smarts aligns with a lot of the school state standards. I think there's a lot of information in both curriculum that is well in alignment, and once the administrators see that, I think they're all for it. And one of the things that we say in our office is that all youth are at risk. And we've done this type of prevention education and relationship education at schools that might not necessarily have been identified as at risk, but there has been tremendous impact there. And we have one school in particular that we just continue to work with, even though, again, they might not necessarily be identified as at-risk youth, but the administration is just so appreciative. The students are very receptive. And again, we were able to make the case that the curriculum is in alignment with a lot of the state standards. We've implemented this course in health classes, in journalism classes, in social studies classes. So it's been able to, get implemented in a variety of different ways.
Oh, fabulous. And as a reminder, on our website, the Dibble Institute website, there is a list of various standards, sexual health standards, and the Family and Consumer Science teacher standards, asset development standards that you can help you in putting your case for relationship education together.
Okay. Are you ready for another question? We've got lots of good questions coming in. Someone would like to know, how long is the implementation period for Relationship Smart? Some grants wants to know the length of it and how many participants do you have at one time? So I know there's some varying answers on this one depending on how you all use it.
Right.
But I don't know if
I'd like to
Delano
talk
might
about
want to answer that one.
That might be. Mm-hmm.
The lessons, again, depending on which one, it's 16 lessons. I mean, you can use an hour. The great thing about the curriculum is that as Marlene is going through, she identifies a couple of different activities to bring the lesson to life, to bring it to bring the point across. So you can choose which lessons to do. It's good to do a teach back or run through before you get there. It's going to be 16 classes. It can be longer because there's many activities to re-emphasize what the topic's about. But depending on how long the school gives you, and depending if it's for the grant, again, you have to complete, the portions that are needed for the grant. But if you're going in just to get your foot in the door, you can choose and highlight, a couple different sections to get the kids excited about relationships. So in essence, that the next time that you're invited back, you're able to get more lessons in. The classes, I find that my classes can tend to get big because, but most classroom sizes are about 25 to 30 kids per class. They're not usually bigger than that. We've used it in colleges, Miami-Dade, for instance, and we've had anywhere up to 200 college students and above come in just to hear different portions as we teach. So you get to basically adapt it to what you're looking for if it's not by the grant. By the grant, again, yes, you have to abide by the guidelines and teach it, as it goes along. But I really enjoy the fact that it gives me the freedom to go about and teach if I'm just doing some highlighted lessons for a group during spring break or things of that nature. So it all depends how you want to gear it and how much time you actually get from the school.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Can I mention, too, that in the most latest version of Love Notes, we're down to 13 lessons, and in Relationship Smarts, it's 12 lessons. But those lessons, as Delano has mentioned, are very flexible, and you can choose what and how you're going to teach it. So that is probably, I think, what you've heard from Delano is the adaptability of the programs.
Yeah, and Irene, this is Ted, and
yes.
I'd like to add on to that. And I mean, we take a little bit of a different approach here in Georgia with what we're doing with our sites, because we do allow the sites have flexibility in terms of which sex ed curriculum they use to really kind of fit with the need of their kids. But all of our sites implement relationship smarts, and all of the sites are required to teach what we kind of define as the 6 core lessons, because each site has a 18 or like
A 16 or
a
8 weeks.
16 lesson or series where it's 8 lessons are from the sex ed and 8 are the relationship smarts. And reason for 8 is because the 6 core, 2 of those lessons actually have to be broken up into 2 lessons because of how long they are, to be able to fit it within the hour of time, hour and a half that they have. And we identified those 6 core based on what from relationship smarts needs to be taught in order to convey to meet the objectives of the curriculum, really. And also we used research to kind of inform what those 6 core are. Relationship smarts, we have some colleagues at Auburn University who've done some really wonderful research to show the impact of the Relationship Smarts program on young people, and to really show the benefits of these 6 core lessons. And because they kind of build on each other. It's not like we can go, oh, let's go teach lesson 7. Oh, now let's go back and teach lesson 3, because the concepts and the principles do build on each other sequentially to help reinforce what healthy relationships are. So all of our sites do implement the same 6 lessons. Time permitting, they're allowed to do more, but very few have the additional time to do that.
Yeah, and this is Felicia. Just one little final comment to add on to what Ted mentioned. One of the other things that we did at the state level is not only did we decide which adult preparation subjects all of our grantees would use and which curriculum that they would use, because they had some selection with the sex ed curriculum. One of the other things, we came up with like 3 different implementation models that they could select from. So we have models depending on whether we have models where they can implement like once a week for 16 weeks for an hour. They can implement twice a week for an hour for 8 weeks, or they can do 8 weeks and do 2 hours once a week. And during the summertime, we give them a little more variation, to work with their community partners. But I think one of the other things that has really helped in the consistency, and definitely from an evaluation standpoint, has been having consistency with across all of our sub-awardees. They're all implementing the same adult preparation subjects, using the same adult preparation curriculum. And when we start looking at things like dosage, we can also really assess that because we've already structured what those implementation options look like.
Well, and Irene, I was thinking Lisa might be able to address just a little bit about the amount of participants, because I'm sure hers, where she teaches this, are less than classroom sizes. They're smaller. Lisa, do you want to address how the curriculum works with smaller groups?
Yeah, I think my typical group has anywhere from 5 to 12 participants. The sweet spot for me is like 8 to 10. 8 to 10 participants works really well for great discussion and input, but not too many people. I have done classes with more participants, from anywhere about 20 to 25 participants. It's doable. You just have to be really good at classroom management and moving things along and not letting tangents and rabbit holes get chased all over the place. But yeah, I think given your ease at classroom management, I think anywhere from a small group of 5 participants all the way up to 25, it's totally doable.
Oh, thank you.
Great,
well, we've come almost to the end, but I don't know if we want to extend this for a few minutes. Possibly, do you have one more really question that's just begging to be answered? Or
yes,
how
and
are you doing?
I do, and we actually had quite a few people asking this: is how can they engage the families of the youth that they work with?
That's a good one. Anyone want to tackle that last question?
This is Robin from OIC. One strategy that we just started this year was to provide the same programming for the youth for the parents, and offer what we called a traveling lecture series, where we would implement, again, the same program for the parents so that they would be able to engage in conversation with their youth based off of what they've learned that evening in a parent class and what their student learns during the day in class with one of our educators. And it's been working out very well. We've got a lot of positive responses back from our families that attend those traveling lecture series. We'll have one at a different school that we implement programming at every single month.
Oh, fabulous. Great ideas. I know that there are probably quite a few other questions and thoughts that are out there percolating. And to let you know that we have this free shipping 30 days. But most important, Kathy, if we have the slide of our contact information,
Oops, I'm sorry.
where you can contact either myself, Kathy, or Dixie with any of your questions and answers. And we'll hopefully have answers for you. And there is a brief survey at the end of this webinar. Possibly if we need more and should extend this subject matter, if we get enough requests, we can see what we can do for you for that. And hopefully we can keep in touch with you through our website, through our newsletter, Facebook, LinkedIn, and personally face-to-face somewhere where we're going to be. It's on our website as to where we are at any conferences. And also call us up for any of your questions. And if you need to even get in contact with any of the panelists, if you didn't catch their email addresses, we'll make sure that you have them. And a reminder, this is recorded. It will be again available for you to review again starting on Monday. Look at our website. It's archived webinars. Next month is The Greatest Gift to a Child, a Healthy Parental Relationship. That idea of healthy relationships lead to healthy children. Dixie is going to be our presenter, and that is April 9th, 4 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. It's been wonderful spending this wonderful hour with you and with all the panelists. As you can see, they have a lot of good information to share from their experiences and their expertise. My thanks to all of them for volunteering to be with us today. And for all of you, I wish you a wonderful day and happy relationships. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.